Let's talk about a puzzle that I think drives a lot of us crazy. Why is it that organizations, filled to the brim with smart, talented people, seem to get stuck in a loop, making the same mistakes over and over again? Today, we're going to dig into this idea of institutional learning architecture to try and find an answer.
I mean, really think about it for a second. We've all been there, right? You look around and you see brilliant colleagues, you see data dashboards for literally everything, endless reports, and yet the same fundamental problems just keep popping up year after year. How's that even possible?
You know the drill. There's this big song and dance about a massive restructuring. Teams get shuffled, titles change, and it's all supposed to fix these deep-seated problems. Fast forward a year, and guess what? Same old problems, just with a brand new org chart.
Or how about this classic? A big project goes off the rails, so a huge effort is made to create a lessons learned document. It's packed with amazing, hard-won insights, and where does this masterpiece end up? Yeah, on some shared drive collecting digital dust, while the very next project team stumbles into the exact same traps. It's almost a joke. So let's be really clear about what we're talking about here. This isn't just about a few oopsies or a bad quarter. This is a systemic issue, a real observable phenomenon of smart institutions failing on repeat. And there's a name for this, the anti-learning phenomenon. It's this bizarre state where an organization looks like it's learning. I mean, it's producing mountains of data, reports, analysis, but its actual behavior never changes. All this new evidence comes in, but instead of correcting the course, it just gets, it gets absorbed or spun or flat out ignored. Anything to protect the way things are.
So you might be wondering, what's really going on here? Our first instinct is usually to blame bad managers, or office politics, or maybe just incompetent people. But the source material for this explainer argues that's the wrong diagnosis. The real problem is way deeper, and it's built into the very structure of the organization.
We love to point fingers at the usual suspects, right? Bad faith, not enough data, stubborn leaders. But the real culprit is the architecture of the institution itself. It's not that there isn't enough information. The problem is that the evidence is completely disconnected from anyone with the power to do anything about it. The learning might exist on paper, but it has no real authority, no force to make change actually happen.
And this brings us to the core concept, a really powerful idea that finally gives a name to this frustration we've all felt. It's called the anti-learning regime.
Let's just chew on that definition for a second. It's a setup where updating, the simple act of changing your mind based on new information, is structurally suppressed. It's blocked. And this happens even when there's tons of feedback and smart people pointing out the issues. That word structurally is everything. The system isn't just broken. It's designed, on purpose or not, to stop change in its tracks. And get this, it's not a bug, it's a feature. This quote from the paper just nails it. These places aren't trying to optimize for learning or getting better. They're optimizing for things like stability, control, or just protecting their reputation. So any piece of evidence that threatens that stability, it gets selectively neutralized. The system isn't failing. It's succeeding at its real goal, resisting change. So here's maybe the most important distinction to grasp. The organization is swimming in learning artifacts. The reports, the dashboards, the slide decks. It has all the trappings of learning. But what's missing is learning authority. The insights have no real power, no teeth to actually change how money is spent or what the strategy is. Okay, so if this is a real thing, how can you tell if you're in one? What are the warning signs? The paper outlines 6, but we're going to focus on 4 of the big ones that are really easy to spot.
First, look for asymmetric penalties. This is where bringing bad news is basically career suicide, but delivering good news that confirms what everyone already thinks gets you rewarded. Second, decoupling. The folks doing the lessons learned analysis are kept miles away from the people who actually control the budgets and make the decisions. Third, you see ritualization. Think of those annual employee surveys or the digital suggestion box. They exist to make it look like feedback is wanted, but everybody knows nothing will ever come of them. And finally, model rigidity. The organization has a core story it tells itself about how the world works, and it will cling to that story no matter how much reality screams otherwise. And if you want to see what this looks like in numbers, here you go. The paper talks about something called the update suppression rate. Just think about the huge amount of evidence that gets produced versus the tiny number of actions that actually change because of it. When you see a massive gap like this, you're looking at a giant red flag for an anti-learning regime. Now, to make this even more real, let's look at a classic example of this in action.
The source calls this archetype the legitimacy fragile institution. So in this kind of place, admitting you are wrong is seen as a massive threat to your authority. Any kind of correction is framed as a sign of weakness. So when things go sideways, the blame is always pointed outward. It wasn't our fault. It was misinformation, or the public just didn't understand. The example of the Public Health Agency is perfect. Even with tons of data showing their communication isn't working, they won't change it because that would mean admitting they got it wrong in the first place. So, the big question is, what do we do about it? How do you fix this? Well, if the problem is in the architecture, the solution has to be architectural too. You have to go after the blueprints. And this is absolutely crucial to understand. The answer isn't to just tell everyone to try harder. It's not about firing people and hiring smarter people. It's not even about vague talks about changing the culture. You have to fundamentally redesign the system, the rules, the processes, the power structures. The paper lays out 3 big principles for this redesign. First, govern learning explicitly. This means creating formal, non-negotiable pathways where evidence forces a review. It's not optional. Second, protect dissent. You have to make it safe, even reward people for bringing up uncomfortable truths. If people are afraid to speak up, your best insights will stay buried forever. And third, and honestly this is the whole shebang, couple evidence to authority. The findings from these reviews can't just be suggestions. They need real teeth. They need the actual power to change budgets, to change strategy, to change the rules of the game. This is the connection that's almost always missing. So I'll leave you with a question to think about. Look around at your own workplace or any institution you're a part of. Look at the real rules, the real incentives. Is it truly designed to learn and get better? Or is it, maybe without even meaning to, perfectly designed to resist? The answer to that question, well, it tells you everything you need to know.